What is up guys, Groj Gaming here. Welcome back to another Clash Royale video. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the January 2018 balance changes for Clash Royale. And yeah, these are going live on the 24th of the 1st, so 24th of January. And I'm really excited for these, and I hope you guys are too, because it should change up the game and bring a bit of life back into it. So we've got a replay on there, and then what we're going to do is just talk about the balances and what I think is going to happen to the meta and the certain cards. And then I want to hear your thoughts on all of these changes, and yeah, just anything that you think is going to happen with the new meta. So first off, we have the Royal Ghost, and thank you Supercell, we all needed it. They made this card so overpowered to start with, and I'm glad to see the change. So we've got damage -6%, invisibility delay from 0.7 seconds to 1.2 seconds. So first off, he's going to do a little bit less damage, which is good obviously, so he doesn't sneak up to your tower and just completely destroy it. He's not going to go invisible as quick, so half a second is pretty huge. So once he hits something and then kind of has to walk towards your tower, the tower has another half a second to actually shoot him, so that should really help to stop him from being so overpowered. And then obviously hit speed from 1.7 to 1.8, so again, damage plus hit speed, which means DPS nerf pretty considerable. That's probably about a 15% DPS nerf or something like that. I can't work it out in my head, but yeah, that's really huge, and I think we'll see less of this kind of bridge spammy meta. Okay, so that is a pretty good nerf to the Royal Ghost, and we're all happy to see it. Then we have ZAPPIES, so they got a little bit of love that they obviously needed because they're really bad. So they're now going to target air, which means obviously they can't just be taken out by minions or something like that. They're still pretty weak in terms of health, but they do offer quite a lot of control, and they should help with kind of air decks now as well. So if someone has a lava hound or a balloon, they should shut that down quite nicely now. So ZAPPIES and bats should shut down a balloon or a lava loon kind of push pretty nicely, as long as you spread everything out. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good change, and well deserved. Next we've got the Hunter. So his range is actually being decreased from 5 to 4, which is pretty small for a ranged unit, but then his bullet spread is smaller, meaning that the closer you get to him, the more deadly it is actually going to be. So once you're at that 4 tile range, he should still do a decent bit of damage to tanks and everything like that. His projectile range still remains at 6.5, so the bullets will still spread 6.5 tiles, but his vision is 4 tiles, which I guess makes sense. But now he should be pretty good. I would have liked to seen a little bit of a HP buff on him, but I guess that kind of this will have to do for now. The Night Witch, which kind of goes hand in hand with the bat change. So we'll go for the bats first. The bats are getting a hit speed nerf from 1 to 1.1 second. So they're going to hit slightly slower, and that will be a pretty decent DPS nerf for a whole gang of bats, which is good. And then just to make sure they didn't kill the Night Witch, they added the initial bats spawning quicker for the Night Witch, which is good. So she's not going to die. She's still going to be pretty good, so she'll have a few more bats a bit quicker, kind of keeping her in the meta as well. So that's a good change. I did say in my previous video that bats did need a nerf, so I'm glad they got that. Then I also said this as well, Lava Hound needed a bit of a buff, so it is even more tankier now. It is a flying tank at the absolute best, hit points plus 5%. So I don't know what that is, but that's going to be a fair bit when you've got it level 5 or even tournament standard. It's still going to be quite a bit. So that might make Lava Hound a bit more of a viable tank, because then you can get those balloons going in while the Lava Hound is still tanking. So that's a pretty good buff there. Goblin Hut, I think they toned it down a little bit, but it probably could have done with toning down just a little bit more. So I'm not overly happy with this one. Spawn speed from 4.9 to 5 seconds. Apparently 1 less goblin spawns, but if you do the maths, it doesn't really seem that way. So I'm not really sure about that one. It obviously did need a nerf, but I'm thinking maybe a HP nerf could have been better, so that a spell does more damage to it and obviously takes out more of the goblins. I don't know. We'll have to see how that kind of sits in the meta now. Hopefully not as annoying. And then Mini P.E.K.K.A. I didn't really see this coming. A HP buff of 7%. So that's a pretty decent amount. He's already pretty tanky as it is. Got a decent bit of health on him. So I'll be interested to see how good he is now. I'm thinking those giant kind of Musketeer Mini P.E.K.K.A cycle decks that you see on ladder will be even more effective now. Mini P.E.K.K.A could be back into minor cycle decks, who knows. But yeah, and then we've got the Lumberjack, again the same buff, because he does a pretty similar thing to the Mini P.E.K.K.A, but obviously has that the rage that drops as well. So I'm thinking Golem decks could be pretty scary now with the Lumberjack rage effect, and his HP now going to be even more effective. So watch out for those Lumberjack Golem decks coming back into the meta again. That could be pretty scary. And then I think a lot of people were pretty happy with this one. I don't know, it's a weird kind of nerf, but the Mortar has its minimum range reduced from 4.5 to 3.5. So, for example, if you put a Tesla down the other side of the bridge from a Mortar and it doesn't target, the Mortar doesn't target the Tesla, it should now do that. It basically won't ignore stuff that's fairly close to it. So you've got a bit more time to kind of get stuff down and distract the Mortar itself. So that should really help with all these Hog Mortar decks and these Hog Bait decks, these Hog Miner Bait decks that are all running riot in ladder. So I hope this kind of helps. I personally would have really liked to have seen some changes to the Prince. He's a bit tanky right now, does a lot of damage, especially when he gets that charge off. So a bit disappointed he didn't receive some kind of a nerf. Skeleton Barrel, maybe that's just because the bats and everything else and the Goblin Hook was too strong that became really strong. But we'll see how that changes. Some other cards I think could do with a change. I would have liked to seen a Valkyrie buff or something like that. She'd hardly ever use, really, let's be honest. She could probably have done with maybe a little bit more damage or something like that. Another huge one that I think they kind of dropped the ball on, to be honest, is the Inferno Dragon. How overpowered is that card right now? If you don't have that in your challenge deck, then you know you kind of find it hard to compete in a way, because it's so strong. So if we see a lot of tank decks coming back, then we're obviously going to see more Inferno Dragon staying inside the meta. So I don't know, I feel like it definitely needed something. Maybe it doesn't heat up quite so quick, or a bit less health or something like that. I don't know, just kind of felt like it needed a change. And another one that I felt like maybe needed tweaking or kind of nerfing was the Mega Knight. So the Mega Knight, still very popular inside the challenge meta, and I know kind of around below 4,000 trophies and then kind of above, you know, top of the leaderboards. When it's level 5, it's used a lot as well. So I don't know, I feel like Mega Knight should have received a nerf. Let's have a look. I feel like its spawn damage could just probably do with nerfing a little bit. So when it does come down, it's not quite as effective at destroying Hog Riders and all those kind of cards that are fairly squishy. I want to know what you guys think of these balance changes overall. Give them a rating out of 10. I'm going to go for a pretty solid 7 out of 10. I'm not overly pleased, but I'm also not disappointed. I do think they could have done with changing a few more cards, but obviously they only change 8 at a time. I don't know, does this annoy anyone else? How they only change 8 cards at a time because it fits into a deck slot, so they can get a nice screenshot of that. They could just change more cards, basically, is what I think. So they could do 10, 15 at a time, because I feel like that is what we need to keep the game really ticking over and really keeping the game fresh. But overall, I'll give them a 7. Let me know what you think down below out of 10, and also say why, because I really want to know what you think and kind of your thought process behind the changes and your opinion on them. I'm excited to see the new meta and what new decks we can come up with. Hopefully some cool new Hunter Zappy decks or something like that might be good. I'll catch you guys very soon with some new decks, and of course continuing our Road to Grand Champion series. So yeah, I'll see you later guys. Peace.